Hi, my name is Moyosoluwa Oladayo, your host on SDGs Connect, where we advocate for the Sustainable Development Goals, showcase groundbreaking change makers, and share with you social impact events across the globe. Today, we'll be discussing volunteering and nation building, and I have with me interesting guests who have made landmark achievements in promoting volunteering in Nigeria. And guess what? They are UNV awardees. I'm sure you don't want to miss this conversation. Don't go anywhere, I'll be right back. Welcome guys, it's another edition of the SDG Connect, and here with me are three powerful volunteers who are doing great and making impacts, just those who emerged to finalists. And over here is Mr. Ovo Otarigo, founder of Ideal Initiative and the convener of Pandemic Volunteers. He's also the winner of UNV Country Award, Category 3, Innovation to Improve Volunteering. How are you, Ovo?
I'm very good, and thank you for having me today.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's always a pleasure having you on the show. Yeah, and also with me is someone whom I really respect a lot. Sometimes you feel you should always have people who are in the development space volunteering, but he is somebody that is unique. He's a clinical psychologist. His name is Mr. Jobe Simon Vestige.
Yes, I expected that, but I am forgiven.
Thank you.
Jobe Simon Vestige.
Jobe Simon Vestige.
Yes.
And he's a clinical psychologist, and he's also the first runner-up of UNV Country Award Category 3, Innovative to Improve Volunteering. What a powerful session. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. And the last but not the least, the woman, the power woman. We have with me Uzwamaka Didugu. I hope I'm right, yes. And she's a sign language expert, those who are really clamoring for inclusion, and she's doing us great. She's also the first runner-up of the UNV Country Award Category 4, Community Empowerment. She's a volunteer with VSO Nigeria. It's a pleasure to have you on the show, Uzo. Yeah, and like you know, we're talking about volunteering. It's IVD, that's International Volunteers Day, and what's better time for us to talk about the impact of volunteering? And what do you really think? Sometimes people say, oh, volunteering, why should I volunteer? What is the importance of volunteering? We know that there are so many importance and there are many value that volunteering also has to nation building. But Ovo, can you tell us what are the importance of volunteering?
Volunteering as it is a platform to serve. So when you serve humanity, you transform lives and improve society. So that alone has tangible importance why people should actually volunteer. So, but beyond that, when people volunteer, there are some other things they derive from it, and it is always tied to the reason why you volunteer is to improve their community, is to solve problems, and sometimes someone to leave a legacy behind. And that's part of the reason why.
Yeah, that's really powerful, because you also want to leave legacy behind. You understand where volunteers tell you that I can't express my passion, I can't even express what I gain, but the fact that I'm impacting lives and I'm helping someone else's life better, that joy alone is just something I feel makes a difference. But for you, Jobe, what makes volunteering important? What's really that thing as a person and as a clinical psychologist?
As a clinical psychologist, I'm already thinking as a clinical psychologist.
Yeah.
It takes me to the hierarchy of need by Abraham Maslow. He gave 5 basic needs of man: physiological needs. The second one is the need for security, social needs. Third one, self-esteem. The last one, self-actualization. For me, I will place it at the level of the height, or the highest, the height, at the height of self-actualization. You must have reached a peak where you realize you are not for yourself, but you are made for others. In fact, in social intelligence, we are made to connect. Once you are not connecting with others, and how do you do that? When you give back, there is this satisfaction that you get, you know, that nothing else can feel. So for me, I will just place it at that level, that there is a satisfaction you have that improves your mental health.
Yeah.
You know, and places you have a sound mind to, you know.
And you're almost making me to go to wanting to ask what was actually the idea, because everybody will have a story to say. Something really made me to start volunteering.
Of course.
And maybe just to divert a bit, what really made you, Uzabaka, to start thinking that, okay, volunteering is the way, especially for what you do as a sign language expert? What was that thing that just make that spark and say, okay, I just need to be here to fill in that gap?
Okay, thank you. Actually, I studied special education, and then in the area of persons with disabilities, I noticed I was born and bred in the north. In the north, you have people with disabilities coming out. They are well known, whereas the case in the east is quite different. And you don't see experts in the area in the east. So when I came down to the east, seeing the gap, you see children who are deaf, but their teachers didn't go through the basic training. So they don't even teach the children the right signs. Instead, they are learning the local signs from the children. So it really made me, wow, I felt so bad about that. I felt, okay, this is the time for me to give back to the community where I come from, to bring out children with disabilities, not minding whether deaf, blind, or physically challenged. I don't mind bringing them out and then putting them in the right places. Okay, so I started in my community and gradually started teaching people the right signs, how to communicate with these children, and how to bring them, inculcate them into everything we're doing.
Wow.
So that's it for me.
Wow. Yeah, and also to talk about something really intriguing. I know during the pandemic, it's not like the COVID is over, but something interesting happened. And over, when you put that culture and you're like, what is really happening? Is there a government volunteer group out there helping people and everything? I did not know it was going to be something huge that you were planning, actually. And Ovo called me and I was like, what is it that we're really doing to help the people out there? We need to actually send the message out there about COVID and sensitize people and everything. What brought that idea? Because it was something at the period where everybody was hiding. You just wanted to go out there. So what really led to that? What was that thing?
I think for me, it was crazy. I said crazy because I saw fear in the eyes of many. I saw people dying in the US, in the UK, in Spain, and all that. So what came to my mind was, what if we are struck in the same chord like the Europeans? What will happen to us? A country like the United States that have the most organized health structure in the world, they were like on their knees. So I said, if it comes to us in the same manner, how do we survive this? So what I did was I reached out to NCDC to see how can I provide my little skills, to help provide a profile for NCDC. I didn't quite get a response. So what I did was to put out a call for other people to join me, people who believe in what I believe in, so I can provide our support to local communities. And what I thought we could do that is this. While we do not have medical facilities, if we send a message to our communities on how to avoid it, then lives will be saved. And that was the beginning. I should be scared, but I didn't know why I wasn't scared, because I know I could die, because when I get then COVID was very dreaded compared to now where I will now have vaccines. Then there were no vaccines and all that, so everybody was scared. My mother would call me, I would tell her, yes, I'm at home, but I'm in a forgotten community somewhere. So it was crazy, but thank God that our efforts put together were able to save lives, because people got to know how to live better, how to manage themselves, how to avoid exposure that will lead them to get COVID. I mean, it's I really don't know why I did it, but I think
should we say courage or fear of the unknown, or courage of the fear?
I think I was inspired to live out the true meaning of my patriotism. One of the core essence of being a patriotic citizen of a country is the ability to step in when there are threats to the nation. And this time we're fighting the unseen enemy, which is COVID. It's a virus, you can't see it. But I saw myself as a soldier on the front line. That if I could even give up my life to save my country, I wouldn't mind. And I salute the courage of everyone who really stepped up. We got doctors, nurses, carpenters, plumbers, people came out and said, yes, we are willing to stand in the gap for the country, and it's amazing.
Oh, thank you. That was really an inspiring story to tell, especially when we were at the heart of the pandemic and all of us were just lost. It's something that nobody knew how to tackle it. We're trying our bit, and yours really came at a time where it was needed. But we also know that volunteering, nothing we do doesn't even come with its own challenges. Same for volunteering. Sometimes people wonder why volunteering. People wonder and say, oh, you're just doing it for fun. Yeah. You just want to be noticed. People don't even value it. What are the challenges that you face as a volunteer? What are the challenges? Let's start with Uzamaka, because especially for the fact that you are a community volunteer, and you can tell us how people view volunteering at the grassroots level.
For me, initially, it was when I started, I had a communication challenge because I couldn't really communicate with those people in the rural areas, like deeply the way they would understand. So I had to like hire someone who would help me translate in the local dialect. The person expected I pay him. You know, the person didn't want to volunteer the way I was.
Maybe you've been paid or something.
Yeah. So it was really a big challenge for me. Yeah. But what I did was that I took it upon myself to start learning that language. And what I just did was, okay, what am I supposed to do? This is what I want to say. Just tell me how to say. And I started learning. So it was a big challenge. So when volunteers go to new communities, go to new areas, there's always communication challenge. That's if you're not used to that area. Secondly, people tend to exploit you when they feel, oh, you can do this, okay, do it more, keep doing it, okay. You're just doing that one step. Why don't you move to the other one? Why don't you keep moving, you know? Yeah. So they want to exploit you when they find out you're willingly doing something. Yeah. So it's part of the challenges I've faced at the grassroots level. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, and then it's really interesting to get the view from the grassroots, because sometimes we just feel, oh, it's only people not appreciating you, or people not even counting your volunteering experience as something worthwhile. It's really a big deal here when you're applying for a job and people feel, oh, you're just volunteer, you don't have working experience.
Yeah, exactly.
And you wonder the number of years you put in volunteer. Why wouldn't it count for you when you need it most? But for Simon, what are the challenges that you face?
You take me back 8 to 9 years ago when I initiated this same project that's today recognized for by the United Nations Volunteer. When I initiated the project, there were people, I will not mention their names, that were like standing against it. Like you will see them, it was obvious. You know, I served in the army barracks, and one of the officers that I report to called me and told me that he would deal with me after the service, because he discovered that beyond his threats, I still went ahead and I was able to gather support from majority of the people. So one of the challenges is your ability to sell the vision and then get people to support the vision. Because I had the challenge with that, but I was able to persevere, and I was also able to get people convinced. The challenges are there. Not everybody is happy you are doing what you are doing, but you have to persevere and then find one or two people like my colleague here say that buys into the idea. Not everybody will buy the idea. When you see the picture of what I did, you will see me with about 5 core members. I spoke with so many. In fact, I was the corpus liaison officer, so it means I have an edge to carry almost every core member along. But at the end of the day, only 5 people supported me. We went to the different locations together, and to the glory of God, shout out to all those 5 core members. I wish I had the time, but you know, I don't need the largest number of people. That when you are able to get the few people that can buy into your idea, just like the salt, you don't need so much of it in the food.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And your story is something that just made me feel, what's this effect of volunteering on volunteers themselves? You know, sometimes we just look at the impact. We also don't look at what actually does this have, the effect it has on us as volunteers. And the story you shared is something that, especially when people don't buy into your idea, sometimes people feel you're crazy, sometimes people just applaud you. Sometimes the applaud is so loud, and when you need them, you don't see anyone.
Very true.
So I'll ask over for your years, you've been in this space for long, at least I've known you for almost a decade now. So what's this effect of volunteering on you as a person?
Okay, so you permit me to speak a little about the challenges too, and I'll talk about the effect.
That's
it's kind
fine.
of related. So,
Yeah.
we did a collaborative research recently that was able to profile some of the challenges volunteers go through, and thankfully one of the organizations that partnered on this research is PSO, and Red Cross, Yali Network, and a few others. No? One thing that resonates in that research is that finance and resources is a challenge for volunteers, and this is how it plays out. You see volunteers who are willing to commit towards developing the community to serve. They have the passion, but they lack the resources to actualize that which they have. So that's one challenge. Another challenge that they go through is issue of transport and distance. Like, you see people who want to volunteer for organization, they do that over time because they have the passion, but the distance going to the place of volunteer all the time, after a while it wears off on them, and it's make it dwindles their commitment eventually. Then also you have working condition. Now this is very, very interesting because working conditions, there are people who serve in the communities. Like I've had volunteers who work with me in a project in the community whereby we as guys, it was easy for us to run around and do stuff. But there was a time a lady wanted to felt pressed. We realized that while we were doing this project, there was no arrangement to capture, to factor that in. These are working conditions that wears off on volunteers. So another thing, another challenge we looked at again is social isolation. Now, and I went through this myself as a volunteer. When you tell people that you are volunteering, people pity you that, look, is this how you're going to live your life? That's how will you end from this? Over time, people tend to isolate themselves from you, and you feel alone. I mean, I worked with thousands of volunteers, and this is what they kept saying, and this is what the data revealed in the course of the research. I mean, the numbers are there, but this is just to capture a few part of it. Now, talking about the effect of some of these challenges on me personally, sometimes it wakens my enthusiasm. There are times I would want to do certain things. I want to do certain things. I would just ask myself, don't you think what this people are saying is true? Like, there are times you really think that, am I really doing the right thing? So those moments come. These are the effect of the challenges on me, because I've gone through the aspect of social isolation from friends and family members. Sometimes I've gone through times whereby I would spend my personal resources to volunteer, and I will get home hungry. I'll be asking myself, am I doing the right thing? So these are the true effects. So, but there are things in any career or sector, challenges must be there. So, but we must look for innovative ways to deal with them.
When I talk about this effect, and I hear it from both sides, I know there are times where even local organizations, like Uzo said, want to exploit volunteers and just think it's a cheap labor. Or come and volunteer for me and things like that, and you're wondering, what's my value? Do they really understand the value I add to their work and things like that? But for the research, I can tell you that it's a very rich content, and Ovo will be launching that very soon, and I'm glad to be part of the process as well. But we've talked about challenges, those exciting moments that make you feel, yes, I've done a good job. At least there's a reward for me, because sometimes people don't also know that it's not always rosy when you're volunteering. Sometimes people even go into volunteering out of life experience, some difficult situation, and they feel like, let me help someone so they don't go through the place I've been through. Let me make another person's life better. So what are the rewarding moments? I know the award came, almost everybody made it to the final. So that's an interesting one, with a big organization and a platform that you would not have even know someone from Enugu exists, someone from all the way and things like that. And the little things we think it's little makes a lot of sense to people out there. But what other thing is it that stood out for you? Let's start with Simon, that make you feel like it's worth it being a volunteer. What are those moments?
Thank you so much. At the award ceremony, a story was told about a man in Kano or one state in the north who volunteered for about 7-8 years, and after the 8 years, he got rewarded. He got a job, he got a house, and all of that. It was exciting. And the person that anchored it said there is always a reward for the volunteer. And you can imagine after 8 years. And now the person that came after said you must not wait 8 years or 7 years to get rewarded. So definitely for me, the reward began on the day that I started the work and I discovered the people in the community were appreciating it. I was excited. The satisfaction that comes from that, while others are asking you how much are you getting. In fact, you can imagine that even from what I was earning then as a core member, I was putting back into what I was able to mobilize. I mobilized over 400,000, to do the project. I added what I had to what I was having, and I was able, that I was also adding from the little I was earning. That the satisfaction that I get from the smiles on the people's faces. A year later or two, I received a call from Kano State where I serve, from someone, a teacher specifically in the school where I serve, saying, "I will never forget you. We really appreciate all you have done. We thank you so much." You will sense it. So that someone, that you've done something that has impacted the life of someone, just one person that just called out of thousands of people I was able to reach out to. Just that one person, I was excited. After I served, my uniform, my NYSC uniform at the POP, literally you see the color has changed because of the nature of trekking and some locations. But like with all of these challenges, it placed me on a higher pedestal to be able to achieve more. It was an encouragement. There is this motivation that I have. Now, talking about the reward, after the NYSC, we calculate the salary or allowances I was getting. It's not up to 200,000 naira. But after the NYSC, when I returned home, there is a small occasion that was organized in appreciation of what I did. And I was able to, people donated over 300,000 naira to me. That's not small money.
No, it's not.
It was more than what I was paid.
I tell you, especially when a core member is leaving and you're wondering where is this source of income going to come, and you got your own reward.
And thank God for a mentor I was having. He was excited with the project. His name is Lepantio then. He was excited with that project and he wanted it replicated in Plateau State. So he himself will mobilize people in certain locations, and then he will pick me to be the resource person. He will feed them, he will pay for the transportation, and he will do everything to ensure that whatever I did, I sustain it. So you see the place of mentoring, I was able to get connection to the right people. And today, as I got the award from the Kano State government, I was awarded, I was recognized, I really appreciate it. But like many years after, the United Nations, not the federal government of Nigeria, recognized what I did. So you can see that it may not come now, despite the fact that I felt satisfied with it. I had peace, which is the basic, the most important thing. It's not about all these other ones. They are secondary, but they will surely come. So the importance of the motivation, extrinsic, are there. But the first and most important reward for me was more of intrinsic motivation, the satisfaction I derive from touching lives, that I see people smiling from whatever I'm doing, and it's like a life goal for me.
Definitely.
Yes.
No, that's good to hear.
And I'm sure God is happy with me.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, so you can see that there is a spiritual dimension.
Yes. Okay, for you, Uzo, what's that thing that makes you feel it's rewarding to be a volunteer? Sometimes you just feel, okay, this is worth doing.
Okay, actually I started volunteering with VSO. That's my first organization. I didn't really know what volunteering was all about. I just wanted to do it because what made me want to do it was when VSO said they are doing inclusive education, and that was what I really wanted. Once you mention persons with disabilities, I jump into whatever you're saying. And funny enough, I was 3 months pregnant.
Wow.
I didn't want to tell anybody because I really wanted that thing. I really wanted to participate. So I was scared if I say it, they would say no, you can't do this. But I wanted them to know I can't do it. So I started doing, started volunteering in the community until I was heavily pregnant. So my family said, no, don't go again because the road, honestly, the road to that place is very bad. So they said, no, don't go there again because of your condition. I said, no, I must continue until I'm done. So luckily, I continued till I gave birth without any issue, and it was just safe. So I felt that maybe God is just, my siblings usually have issues while giving birth. Yes, but I just go there, come back, I just give birth. There's no problem. So I just feel maybe God is trying to reward me for what I'm doing, Now on the second part, after I gave birth, like I didn't come to the community for a month. So the second month I came, the children, especially children with disabilities that I've been trying to train, the way they all came to hug me was just so rewarding. That was okay for me. I didn't really need the money. I didn't need the certificate. But seeing those children jump, they were like, auntie, I was just happy, So for me, that's just enough. That was just okay. Seeing them happy. They were just happy to see me back again. That was okay.
Especially when you're making impact in life of people, but you don't know the degree at which you've really touched them, and there's a gap, and they come back and say, oh, we've missed you and everything. I've seen lots of people say, oh, Moyo, my first step in development sector and the learning, you brought me into it. People who are really made, and I'm like, oh, I was just doing my job. I don't know I wasn't making any impact. I see lots of people just randomly call us, oh, you were handling a training, I was just a participant, but this really helped me to become something great. So for OVO, I know there is a policy, national policy on volunteering that has been approved, but probably maybe not well known by people. But what do you think about this policy, and what value do you think it's going to add on to volunteering in Nigeria?
First, I think it's the right step in the right direction that a country like Nigeria will have a volunteer policy. Because policy helps to develop a direct development, so I think that's good. However, the policy is still a work in progress. A few things has to be done for it to translate to the essence with which it was created. So there should be an inclusion between the government angle of the policy and the citizen aspect of the policy, which has to do with the implementation. So when a policy is driven by the government angle alone, you cannot achieve the true value. For example, if you look at the work plan of the NMVS, they go about from each geopolitical zone to the other, which is good. However, if you go to that same geopolitical zone they left, go to a secondary school in that zone, they are not aware of the policy itself. So if you still go to communities and schools within those communities where the NMVS may have gone to, you realize that they still do not know much about the policy. Go to the local government, they don't know about the policy. So there has to be an infusion of the role of the government and the people. So there has to be a deliberate attempt by the government, which is NMBS, and the civil society arm. So that there has to be a synergy for the policy to be known and for it to translate to the essence with which it was created. And that's how the policy can actually translate to good progress.
Especially when we know that advocacy can be too much. Everybody needs to be on board to be able to push this, and also let people understand the value, the importance. This exists. These are the ways. It's even adopted the global standard for volunteering for development. Thank you for being here, and before we leave, we just know that International Volunteers Day is around the corner. What's your final word? What's your message? IPD message. Let's have IPD message from you before we leave.
Okay, for me, I'll say volunteer, keep volunteering, always volunteer. Because there's always reward for your passion.
And the thing is volunteering now for a common future. So if you volunteer, then you're volunteering for common future and good of everyone. Simon, what's the message of fellows?
I think I would like to give us an assignment and then also give us a clue. There's what we call the bystander effect in psychology. It means you pass the responsibility to other people. You are expecting other people because they are there and there's someone in need, and you are thinking, oh, it is their responsibility, it is not my own responsibility. And you are thinking it's my responsibility, you are thinking it's his responsibility. At the end of the day, nobody does the work. So for me, imagine you are the only one, because at the end of the day, when you imagine you are the only one, you take a step to be of help. So I'm encouraging us to go and study more about what the bystander effect is and overcome it.
Thank you. And Ovo, what's your video message to our guests? Okay.
My final message would be that for volunteers around the world, around the country, who do a lot of stuff and yet they are not recognized, do not give up.
Yeah.
The strength of a volunteer is in its service and not the recognition. So keep serving. Do not look onto the reward. But do you know what? The reward will come.
Yes, sure.
We definitely agree that the reward will come.
Sure.
And make sure that when you're volunteering for development to make a change. Wow, it's an amazing time on today's episode of SDGs Connect, where we talked about volunteering and its impact on nation building. I hope you've been able to learn something. As someone who has volunteered for a decade and a recipient of the UNB award, I can tell you that volunteering is rewarding. Volunteers, they say, is not cheap labors, but the impact of volunteers to nation building cannot be undermined. Join us next time for another interesting episode of SDGs Connect. I remain Moyosoluwa Oladayo. Please remember to follow us on social media. Bye!